Hello everyone, my name is AndrewAJT and welcome to another OSRS vlog. So we have two pretty interesting topics to talk about today. The first one is OSRS sustainable? Now this is a pretty interesting question. I've thought about this for a long time, but I've never really put my thoughts into a video, so maybe by doing that today I can kind of give my own opinion on it and form one. And what I mean by this is, how long can this game last? Can it attract new players? Can it go on for many, many years, or is there worrying signs about that? The second topic is really unrelated. It's about all my technical problems I've been experiencing this week and how I eventually solve them when I'm trying to upgrade to Windows 10 and all of the things that preceded that. We'll wait until after the OSRS discussion to get into that. So is Old School sustainable? Well, I was looking at something with my channel analytics recently. So the only context to this that you need to know is I've made RuneScape videos since around 2007, and that's predominantly what's been featured on this channel. I make melee videos sometimes or speedrunning videos, but for the most part, most of my videos have been about RuneScape or Old School RuneScape, and I was looking at the age range of my viewers. So here is the age range of my viewers back in 2010, and keep in mind these are mostly RuneScape viewers and RuneScape players. So you can see here there is a good chunk of players that are 13 to 17 years old, or at least viewers, a huge chunk of people that are 18 to 24, and a decent amount that are 25 to 34, but not too many, and of course the older age groups are not super well represented. Then if we jump to 2013, you can see that things are changing drastically. So this is the first year of Old School RuneScape, and you can see that the predominant age group is 18 to 24, and the reason for that is probably those are the people who played RuneScape back in 2006 and 2007 when they were younger, and now they're in the 18 to 24 age group in 2013, and they're playing Old School because that was what is familiar to them. You could really think of those people as the target audience for Old School when it came out, also anyone older than that as well. So if we go to 2016, which was just really another year in Old School once it was well established, you can see that the 13 to 17-year-old age group has declined more. The 18 to 24-year-old and 25 to 34-year-old age groups have kind of changed a little bit. Actually, a lot of the percent from the 18 to 24 has gone to the 25 to 34. I guess that means that the people who were playing it in 2013 have simply gotten older and now they fall into that higher age group. And even the 35-year-old plus age groups have actually expanded quite a bit. So finally, here is 2019, and things have changed drastically. The 13 to 17-year-old age group is pretty much gone. The 18 to 24-year-old age group has lost a lot of percent, and 25 to 34 has actually taken over as the predominant age group. And the 35 and 44 and 45 to 54 actually do have a decent amount of percent as well. So really what this tells me is that the player base for this game is actually pretty old, if I have to say so. I don't mean that in a bad way, but this just tells me that Old School RuneScape has kind of a more mature player base, and it's made up of a lot of people who are veterans of the game. Now keep in mind that this isn't a scientific study, not even close. There are other videos on my channel, like I said, that will influence these numbers, and maybe my channel has older viewers in general. I think that's actually pretty true, that most of you guys watching are actually kind of more veteran RuneScape players, whereas if I made a video about Lumbridge tutorials and stuff, you would probably see these age ranges go down. But I don't really have a better way to look at the age ranges for Old School RuneScape, and they are pretty interesting numbers. And the fact that the Old School player base is older by itself is actually probably a good thing, because we understand the game, we're more mature, we're not running around getting angry at people, we're not causing problems, we understand how the game works, the history behind the game, things like that. So that's actually probably a good thing for the community and for the game itself. The question is, are you really going to attract many new players when this is a game that targets people who are 25 to 30? How many people who are 25 to 30 and have never played RuneScape in any form in their life are really going to pick it up and start? Think about it, a lot of those people don't even play video games anymore, let alone come to a game that they're unfamiliar with, which has very old graphics and requires a lot of time commitment when a lot of those people are working jobs, or they're married, or they have kids and they don't have many hours to put into a game like this. I'm guessing that most of you guys have played some form of RuneScape, whether it was pre-EOC or back in the 06, 07 era, before you started playing OSRS today. And if that's the case, how can the game attract new players in the future when there's not going to be this big pool of people that have played it back in the day and have some nostalgia for it? It's going to be people who have never heard of RuneScape before, and you're going to be having to introduce it to them and explain things and try to get the game to appeal to them. Is that going to be realistic to sustain the player base when eventually many of the veteran players we have now move on from the game? You can probably think of many things that people enjoy just because they grew up with it and they're just used to and accustomed to it. For example, I'm a huge New York Mets fan. I watch almost every single game. I love watching baseball, but I grew up with it, and if I didn't do that, and if you just introduced it to me now, maybe I wouldn't like it as much, or maybe I wouldn't like it at all. I mean, people nowadays say, oh, baseball's too slow, it's boring, and I don't find that to be the case for me, but maybe that would be the case if I didn't grow up with it. It's really hard to say, but it's definitely possible. I've noticed that with other sports where, yeah, I can enjoy them, but because I don't really feel a connection to the game, then it's not super interesting for me. So the big question is what could be done about this, and I think indirectly we've already seen a lot of changes because of this. For example, the game has been ported to mobile. This has made the game more accessible and appeal to more people. But other changes you could look at are the ones to the game itself. For example, a lot of quality of life updates. I think the version of Old School that was released in 2013 was definitely representing a more traditional time in the game where it was pretty clunky and you had to go through all these weird interfaces and stuff. Now it's all been cleaned up for the most part and a lot more user-friendly, which is probably very good for new players to just have an easier time getting accustomed to the game. The good news is I really don't think that the game has to become more complex to appeal to new people. I mean, look at games like Flappy Bird when that came out. That is the most simple game I've ever played for the most part, and it was extremely popular at the time. I think we've already made that mistake and learned from it with the evolution of combat in 2012, that maybe there was a thought that the combat system was too simple for a game in 2012 and it had to be modernized, whereas people actually don't mind the simple stuff in reality, in my opinion. The big question is, should this game ever have an HD option, maybe to make the graphics similar to kind of the 2009 era, where they actually did look quite good. But that's a pretty tough question. I don't know if I'd really want that or not. It would be pretty cool, but then again, would the game really be Old School RuneScape if we had HD graphics? That's one that I really need more time to think about. Not to go too much back into the baseball analogy, but Major League Baseball has attempted in recent years to speed up the game and make it more appealing to younger people, and it's been met with mixed results. I'm sure you guys could think of other examples where maybe it worked in a certain sport or game or it didn't work. I think it really boils down to, does this game and can it in the future appeal to people who have no prior association with RuneScape at any point in their life? Let me know what you guys think of this. I know it's kind of all philosophical and not really concrete, and keep in mind that I'm really projecting very far along down the future, like 5, 10, or even 15 years. I'm not saying, oh, Old School RuneScape is dying or RuneScape's going to be gone within a couple years. I actually think the game is doing quite well right now, but I'm just projecting far into the future. I mean, this game has been around since, the early 2000s, so is that going to happen again? Is it going to have another 20 years left in it, or what exactly is the game going to look like down the road? I'd be very interested to hear all your guys' thoughts in the comments and how you started playing OSRS, if you played back then or you only started playing 2013 or later. If you're one of the people who played back then, let me know if you think that's part of the reason why you play Old School today. And if you're one of the new people who only started playing for Old School and you never played RuneScape before at all, let me know how you found OSRS and what did you think of it at first? How did you get into it? I'm pretty curious to know. So the other thing which I do want to give an update on, just because I posted about it a bunch in the community tab, is my upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10. Windows 7 is my favorite operating system ever invented, and up until yesterday I was still a caveman using it. I know it was released in 2009, so it is getting pretty old, but they just recently stopped the support for Windows 7 completely as far as I know, so it's not really going to get any security updates, and I noticed some problems are definitely occurring with it, mostly as far as program compatibility goes. For example, my Discord screen on Windows 7 was always huge. It took up like the entire screen. That was just one thing I noticed. Maybe there's a way to fix that, but it was kind of weird to deal with. Also, the way this whole thing started and the reason I decided to upgrade was actually a chain of events. I found this old footage of me playing Melee netplay friendlies from like 2015 or something. That was back when I was actively competing in Melee and probably when I was in my prime as far as a player, so I wanted to watch this footage. It was against VWins, who is an old school Peach player, and this file would not play. It's like 4 gigabytes, but it just does not play whatsoever, so I figured, okay, let me try updating my codecs on Windows 7 and maybe that'll fix it. That did not fix it, unfortunately. I tried so many things. I tried converting it, playing it in VLC with the different settings, and I could not get this file to play, and I still can't get it to play, so let me know if anyone has any ideas. But anyway, I decided, okay, I like the old codecs better, so I did a system restore to restore the previous codecs. That went fine, but when I opened RuneLite after that, I guess something changed in the registry because the whole RuneLite screen was blurry. Not just the game, it's not like I had stretch mode on. The entire RuneLite client was blurry, and this was definitely because I play, at least on Windows 7, with 125% DPI in Windows, which basically lets you keep the same resolution, but it makes everything a little bigger. So if I played it in 100% DPI, it would be fine, but 125% was the default for my laptop, so I wanted to keep it that way, and RuneLite was blurry, and I couldn't find a solution to this, and it was probably just because of an old Windows 7 compatibility issue. I knew that upgrading to Windows 10 would probably fix this issue, and also because just recently the support for 7 ended, I guess I was a little bit vulnerable still using 7 when it was not going to get any security features anymore, so I figured, you know what, I'm just going to upgrade, and I did that. By the way, I'm not sponsored by Microsoft or RuneLite or anything like that, but I tried the upgrade and it didn't work. It was giving me a problem. It stopped midway through. It just wasn't working whatsoever. I know that upgrading your operating system and not doing a clean install is kind of considered a bad thing because you might have that old operating system kind of running, or not really running, but existing in the background in some form and causing problems. So I'm probably not the only person who's had issues upgrading, but it was really a roadblock. And I tried a whole bunch of different things. I tried upgrading drivers, deleting drivers, disk checks, defrags, all sorts of things. I don't have any professional experience or training with IT stuff, so I'm not an expert by any means, but growing up I was very good with computers. Usually, even nowadays, if someone I know has a tech issue, usually they're asking me about it, so I'm pretty comfortable with dealing with most technical stuff, but I really didn't know what the problem was here. And I spent really a few days in like a black hole, basically, of trying to figure out how to get this upgrade to work, and I don't know, maybe should I just stick with 7? This is too much of a hassle. Should I just go back and try to figure out the RuneLite issue and stay with 7, or should I do a clean install of 7, then install 10? And what eventually worked is I did all that stuff I mentioned earlier, and then I tried the keep no files option in the Windows 10 upgrade, and that eventually did work. Of course, I had to back up all my stuff to an external hard drive, which I do anyway, but I hadn't done in a couple months, so I had to do a fresh one, which took like 30 hours or something. And yeah, we are up and running with a sort of fresh install, I guess, of Windows 10. I'm not sure if it's a true clean install when I selected that option, but it's pretty close to it, it seems. All my programs I have to reinstall, so I'm working on that now. And Windows 10 is fine. I've used it before with other computers. It's not great, but it's definitely closer to 7 than 8 is, so it's pretty easy for me to use. There's not really much of a learning curve. I still like 7 a little better, but I can certainly enjoy Windows 10. I don't know what would have happened if I stuck with Windows 7. Maybe it would become a big security risk, or maybe not, but either way, some programs might stop supporting Windows 7 after a period of time. Maybe some of you guys could shed some light on that, but I just figured that this will fix my RuneLite issue, and they're offering the free upgrade anyway, so I might as well take it, and I should be good to go as far as operating systems go. It seems to run really well on this laptop. It was a gaming laptop from 2013 or so, which had really good hardware for the time. Obviously, it's pretty outdated now, but Windows 10 is still running very well on it. I don't know how interesting you guys found that story. I do enjoy reading and learning about tech stuff and things like that, so I think it's interesting, but who knows, I really just wanted to get all that off my chest. It was really annoying 3 or 4 days I had where I just had to spend so much time on this, and I'm so glad it's all over. Although I'm sure I'll get a blue screen of death right after I publish this video, but thank you to everyone who reached out to help me as well. Let me know your thoughts on this video, and hit the like button if you agree with any of my points. Also, you might want to check out my other video, Are Boomers Ruining OSRS? It discusses some of the related topics to this video in more detail, so if you want to check that out, it'll be in the end screen and in the description. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already and hit the bell icon and hit all to get notifications whenever I upload every Tuesday. You can check out my clan chat, AndrewAJT62, that'll be up on screen. You can join my Discord down below. You can follow me on Twitter down below at AndrewAJT, and I'll follow you back if you play RS. And lastly, you can check out my Patreon page in the end screen, where I offer different benefits for various levels of support. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.